Good morning, everybody. So, sort of a combo tech week report slash problem solving uh, conversation right now. Um, so you've all heard the term "don't sweat the small stuff," and I've talked about making sure you tackle the big problems first. Don't leave the big problems. Don't put off the big problems. Um, pardon me. So right now, one of the big challenges that we have, and it's been a problem. It's been a problem for a little while. It seems compounded this year. Uh, Again, I think a lot of that is coming off of the COVID for 2 years. Students just are out of the habit of being students. But even before that, this was kind of an issue. Uh, we have a lot of problem this year specifically with uh, how to put it. I don't say kids dropping shows, but kids overcommitting themselves so that they don't have the time to make the commitment that is required of a show to make it really work. Um, And it's wonderful that kids have opportunities to do sports and dance and choir and clubs and theater and jobs and all of the things that make figuring out who you are easier, because that's what high school is all about. It's about figuring out who you are and what you like and what you want to do. Um, but some of our kids are so overcommitted that they've got 5 or 6 things going on every day after school, and they're not wrapping their head around the fact that, okay, you have to commit to one of these things because not everything is an individual commitment. Some things are group commitments, and some kids get that better than others do. Um, and that is the same sort of problem I'm having in some of my classes this year is we are a team sport. Theater is a team sport. You can't do it if you don't have all the team members. But they are looking at everything from an individual standpoint. And part of that's being a teenager, part of that is just where they are developmentally, and as adults in the education field, we know that, and part of it is helping them get to that next step developmentally, where they are thinking about something other than just themselves. And that comes, some kids hit that early, some kids hit that later, but it comes eventually. Um, but as far as the show goes, you can't do a show if everybody's taken off constantly. So that's been a big challenge. Um, I think also right now our students are so used to being, I don't want to say being catered to because that's not really the right thing to say. They are used to being able to step out of one thing and into another immediately, and everybody's been okay with that as long as they are staying active, because that was for the past couple of years with us, making sure that the students were engaged. So however we could engage them was acceptable. But now that we're back in person and we have in-person commitments and not everything is virtual, and you can't split your screen and do two things at once, then they're struggling with the ability to come back, make those commitments, and be focused in the moment and be present for this one thing that they have to do right now. So that's a bit of a challenge. And we always lose kids at the end of the year just because they overcommit at the beginning of the year and say, yes, I'm going to do this thing, and then they get to the end of the year, especially the seniors, and they realize, oh, I've got a lot to do. I've got graduation and figuring out what I'm doing next and applying for college and jobs and scholarships and all that stuff. So we tend to lose a few kids. This year, however, we're not losing them so much as they are like flitting in and out of things, and that doesn't work for what we do. Um, when you get down to it, you can do a little bit of that early in the process, but when you get down to it, uh, it just doesn't work for a show. So, um, so that's kind of the big challenge of this next couple weeks. So, like I said, we have show on top of show on top of show right now, which is it's so fun to see it happening. It's a little harder to execute it, but uh, so we're going into Tech Week, and I always have a swing man on the crew just because I never know if I'm going to lose somebody. But that is our big thing and part of that, solving that problem, is communication and making sure that you are clear about the expectations of what is going to happen and why you are needed. Um, it doesn't always they don't always grok that. They don't always respond to that, even though, I could say, nobody else can do this job. I need you to do this job at this moment, and nobody else can do that. So if you're not here, that doesn't happen, and that affects the whole show. They don't always see it as a big deal. So it's communicating really clearly that they are important to the process, whether they be crew members or um, chorus members or ensemble members. They are they all have to understand how important they are to the process, to buy into the process and be a part of it. So um, that is the challenge. Uh, Getting them to really latch onto it, and making them feel a part of it, regardless of what their role is, regardless of. And we've also all heard the saying, "No small parts, only small actors." Uh, we watch. We've often told the kids, when we're watching rehearsals, like, we're not watching the leads, we're watching the ensemble because you guys are the more interesting part of the show. Especially a lot of the shows that we done. This probably sounds terrible to say, but a lot of the shows that we do, we've done before, especially when you've been doing this for 30 years, 40 years. Um, New shows, obviously that's different, but a lot of the shows that we do, we might do a new show, one every year, or maybe one every other year, something we haven't done before. But for a lot of us, we've done the shows that are typical in high schools, and we know the story. We're watching to see what else is happening. We're watching to see all of the other people engaged, because that's the fun part, is seeing what's happening around that main conversation that's happening on stage. And I, of course, watch the sets. I mean, that's my favorite thing. You walk in, you look at the set, and you're like, okay, based on the set, where is this going? But that's just me. All right, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you have any ideas about keeping your students engaged and helping to uh, sort of solve this, I don't want to say overscheduling problem, but how do you handle it in your theater? How do you handle it in your school, in your program? Do you just flow with it? Because I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that have to just flow with it. So how do you manage that? I would be curious to know. Thanks. You guys have a fantastic day.